Hey, it's Lope. Welcome to Refine the Machine, and today I want to talk about loneliness. It's been in the air lately, don't know why. A lot of people talking about it. Obviously, it's pretty common, and that's what I want to get to. But first, let's make a distinction between loneliness and solitude. See, loneliness, according to Carl Jung, is loneliness does not come from having no people about one, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to oneself or from holding certain views which others find inadmissible. That's Carl Jung. And in short, loneliness is a feeling of disconnection with yourself and others. Because ultimately, it's hard to connect with others if you don't feel connected with yourself. If you don't feel like you can express yourself freely, then you're gonna feel some level of disconnect. Whereas solitude is chosen time alone in order to connect with yourself or to do something. It's like a place of recreation, of exploration. And I think it's important to know that solitude is sometimes associated with sadness, but it's not always sad. It's sometimes angry. Sometimes it's like you're lonely because you are angry about a situation, but no one else is. Or it's just, it's again a disconnection between two things, your perspective and others' perspectives. Now, loneliness can be when you're alone or with other people. So I think that most times what happens is when we're lonely, we're just lacking the skill to communicate what we need to communicate in a way that makes us feel heard or understood. And sometimes it's just the right message to the wrong people. And if you have that burden on you, if you share it with the wrong people, you will feel lesser. You will feel even more lonely. But if you fight the right people to share it with, it will lighten the load. You know, they say like a burden share is a half burden or a half load or whatever. You know, lighten the load. We share with each other in order to care for each other, to help each other out. And I feel like loneliness is somehow exasperated by technology. I see a lot of people who say they're lonely texting a lot. I'm not really a fan of texting, I'll be honest. I don't really connect to text like that. There's to me there's a lack of depth in text. There's something missing, the breath of life, I guess. Um, I just feel like it's not nuanced enough and it's easily misunderstood, and that misunderstanding again breeds loneliness. And because in modern society loneliness is universal, and that's why it's an illusion, is because it's one of the most universal human experiences we can have. I feel like a majority of people at some time in their life are going to feel lonely. They will feel like we will feel like the experience we're having is ours and ours alone. Like our sadness is the only sadness that ever happened. And I'll tell you a story a little bit about why I have experienced this myself. But there's something interesting about loneliness. It's like, to me, anytime I'm getting into that lonely state, what happens is my old habits start to feel old. They feel like stale. My hobbies feel old and stale. Like books, I enjoy reading books, but sometimes if I'm ready to do something different, then I will get into a state where the books are no longer engaging to me. I'm missing something. It feels empty. Video games will feel empty. Shows will feel empty. Drugs will feel empty. There's like almost like a disgust with what's happening, and your mind begins to go, "What else? What else is there?" Um, there's there's a certain pain that comes with loneliness, because I feel like it's uh, a fire of refinement, like a cracking open of you. It's exposing you to yourself. It's revealing something about you. If something is boring to you that you used to find pleasurable or engaging, then it invites a question. It's an invitation. And sometimes it can feel like cold water. It can feel like you were submerged. You can feel like you are being pushed underneath something, which is what we call depression. A depression is like going into a dark, deep place. And I feel like loneliness also opens up a channel to the unconscious mind. In my loneliest times, I've had the most vivid dreams. I, in a way, enjoyed it because it gave me a compass, a guidance. It gave me something to strive towards, to aspire towards. And I feel like that's one of the benefits of loneliness, if there is one, is that. And obviously, there's levels to this loneliness because there are some people who take it to a self destructive way, and I definitely have. Some of the times I was most addicted to drugs was when I was lonely. And I feel like that's because I was missing a connection with the people around me, with myself, with my interests, with my hobbies. I just didn't have that kind of connection. I didn't have something to look forward to. And I was looking for something to distract myself. Um, like I said, it's a complicated thing, and it's it it's scary. It can be intimidating. It can open up a lot of closed memories, a lot of things that maybe you haven't looked at in a while that will make you second guess yourself. And for me, it was always a battle, and anger was always a part of my loneliness because I was always angry at myself for allowing myself to get to this point, to get to the depth of anger, the depth of loneliness where I felt like I couldn't talk to anyone, even though I have great people I could talk to. I just had this feeling that I didn't want to burden them. I didn't want to, I don't know, let loose on them. But like I said, I realized that there are right people to do this with, and there are wrong people to do this with. And that might be controversial because some people don't believe in right and wrong for some reason, but I do. I believe there are the right people. There are people who you can trust with sensitive information like that, who won't dismiss your feelings underneath this mask of masculinity, where people will say, "Oh, it's man up," or forget your feelings, or bury it deep, or let's go drink some beer. It's like, okay, I mean, that's a form of connection, but if we're just distracting from the issue at hand, that feeling's going to come back tenfold. There's a quote by Sigmund Freud, and it's uh emotion, what is it, emotions, man, I should have wrote that down. um Emotions never die. I don't know. I'll edit that out, but I'll add in the quote itself. But I think that it's interesting to me because loneliness also brought me some of the best clarity of my life. I'll tell you a story. It goes like this. Um, it was August of 2022. That year my dad was put in a hospice, and that year my dad died. I was a new father, and I was incredibly lonely for a variety of reasons, but because I was health conscious, I felt somewhat responsible for, I don't know, saving him. It's so messed up how the mind works sometimes, but that's really what I felt at the time. I felt like I had a responsibility in helping him and saving him. And because I couldn't do that, I went through a long time of these dark dreams, these light dreams. There was something impelling me to do something about it, you know? I began to just explore and create more. And in that loneliness, it vacillated between loneliness, wanting to reach out to someone, and solitude, where I enjoyed my time alone, where I was able to read and write and create and draw and play music, and I was free. But sometimes I felt confined because to me, I feel like loneliness is like a cage, but the door is unlocked, and you can always walk out the door, and it opens up into solitude, which is a playground. And that playground can be a laboratory, a work area where you can experiment and create freely without the judgment of others. And it gets a little deeper because you do have these voices in your mind that are telling you the opposite, but they were embedded by people who didn't know better some time ago, you know. But anyway, August 2022, I am at MetLife Stadium about to watch the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Throughout that year, I was taking a lot of photos. I was connecting to nature. I was trying to connect with myself in hindsight. And I only know this in hindsight because it was just something I was drawn to do. I always tried to trust my intuition, my instincts, and it was something that always guided me, even complicatedly, through this roller coaster of emotions, of sadness and anger. So I would go out in nature and take pictures and ground myself and hike up the mountain and just try to be aware and just do more and live more and try to be a good father to my son like my dad was to me. And he was my best friend, and he was somebody I trusted very much, probably the person I trusted most in the world before he left. um and at this concert, Red Hot Chili Peppers, we get there and the sun is setting. It's me, my son, he was 1 years old, my partner, and my friend. And we're sitting there and the sun is setting in the clouds. And it's a cloudy day, but all of a sudden there's like a hole in the clouds. I'll add the picture in here. And it was like a sign to me. Like I said, the things don't make sense probably from the outside, but I'm just trying to explain it through my perspective. It was like a sign. It was like it's okay, you know. My dad always loved sunrises and sunsets. I found some solace in that, some connection right there. Like, oh, it's okay. And then the Strokes came on, which is ironic, like a divine comedy, like a joke, because the Strokes are a band, and my dad had a stroke, and it's pretty fucked up. It's funny, but uh, yeah. And then the Red Hot Chili Peppers came on, and the Red Hot Chili Peppers played a song called Black Summer, and I felt like I had a black summer. Like I said, it was a roller coaster. It was up and down, and there was a lot going on. But through their music, I felt very connected to a lot of what the themes they were touching on. And then the moment came where they played Under the Bridge, one of their most popular songs. And it's a song about loneliness. And there's 50,000 people in the stadium standing side by side singing about loneliness. And it was like a weight was lifted off of me because I knew I wasn't alone. And I had already known I wasn't alone somehow, some way. I just knew I wasn't alone. Even when I felt the loneliest, knew I wasn't alone. But in that moment, I could feel it. The stadium felt like it was breathing. We were high up, so because tickets are expensive, but we're high up, you know, and the air is moving beneath us from above and below. It's like the stadium was alive. It was breathing. Everyone's singing in unison, like a unified entity. And for me, that was transformative. It was inspiring, and it was an epiphany because I've right there I realized that loneliness is universal, and loneliness is something that everyone experiences in some form or fashion, and loneliness is something that can be transmuted in the alchemical word of taking something that is dark and heavy and transforming it into something light, you know, like gold. Like you take this heavy dense thing, depression or loneliness, and you could take it and say, never mind, now this is solitude, now this is my playground and I can play here. And there are people like me out there who are also experiencing what I'm experiencing and also feeling what I'm feeling, so I'm never truly alone. And also I contain trillions of cells who facilitate the growth and renewal of my body and my mind. And I'm never really alone. And even when I'm unseen, I am seen by something, you know, even maybe that eye behind me. But it's something like that. And that's what I started to really feel. And after that concert, I was inspired greatly, and I decided that it was time for me to start sharing with the world some of the perspectives that had probably kept me going through that time. Probably kept me somewhat sane, even though from the outside it probably seemed like I was insane. Um, I decided to during that time. Um, uh, Marianne was my dad's partner, and she was with him till the end, you know. And she said something once, and it really stuck with me. And she said there's a message in every mess. And she said it, and it's funny because my dad used to say there's a lesson in every test, and you put it together. There's a message in every mess, and there's a lesson in every test. And that mantra stuck with me very much. It was very important to me, fundamental. So through that time, I decided to not let go of myself. My dad also gave me great advice. He said to take care of yourself. And that brings me to the concept that the wound that brought us there becomes the womb in which we can grow. That cut mark, that whatever it is, that can be the place where we grow from. The wound becomes the womb, and like wound and womb, it just sounds similar, but hopefully you understand. And I just decided to start looking at things differently and seeing this thing that I was perceiving this disconnection, but I was just perceiving it. It was a perception. So I decided to see it as a connection to myself. And I decided to find out who I was. Because take care of yourself is a loaded phrase because there's a lot in there. What does it mean to take care of yourself? What does it mean to take care? What does it mean of yourself? Who are you? What is the self? This idea just ran with me, and I decided to really dive into it. And I decided that the important thing for me to do was to pursue my interest, to be the best father I could be, to grow, to forgive myself for the regret and the guilt that I had, and to kind of let go of the things that I felt like were holding me back, like the past. A lot of the past was in my frame before that was kind of negative. I had done some growing, but I still had some resentment, some holding on that I was doing, and I decided to let it all go because I didn't know. I just thought it was the only way forward, and in that, I started just diving deeper into improving, into studying, into finding ways to convey a message, because this body we have, this mind we have is our home. It grows with us, it goes with us, and so long as we have a body and a mind, we are alive. So to discard your body is not good. You must take care of the body nutritionally, through exercise, through um, self care of some sort. Massage yourself, touch yourself, love yourself, hug yourself. Because if I had this idea too, is that uh, if I couldn't love myself, how could I love my son? And it was disturbing to me because at first it seemed like, what am I even doing? But it really made sense when I started doing it because I was like, more, this makes it easier. Like I said, it's not easy, but it's easier. It's simple, but it's not easy. To say I love myself is kind of hard to do if you've never done it. And I like it was hard for me. What I'm saying is, it was hard for me. This is all through my experience, my lens. But as I was able to do that, I was able to also say that to more people, and I was able to embrace and have compassion for what's going on. And this is a constant process because right now it's the depth of winter. It is cold. It is 5 degrees outside. There is ice on on the ground, and it is slippery walking in here. This is a outside shed where I create things, and I slip, and I feel like loneliness is like that. It forces you to go in your house, look around, and your house being your body and your mind, and it makes you go, look at it. Look, what can we do? You're inside now. What do we do? And I could keep trying to go outside, but I still have to come back home, and I still will smell the smells of my home if I come back and it's not clean. No matter how much you leave it, you're always going to come back to it. No matter where you go, there you are. And I found through reaching out to certain people, through even finding people on YouTube who I gelled with, who I vibed with, that really helped me to come out of it because I could see, oh, I'm not the only one that thinks this way. I'm not the only one who feels this way. I'm not the only one struggling, and I'm not. And what I want to do and what I admire about what they do, I could also do. And it's this there's an idea of conversation, you know. See, we live in a world of communication, and communication has honestly lost a lot of value because it's constant, and it's most of it is unnecessary. If we're being real, I mean, I'm just being completely honest. I feel like a lot of communication distracts us from what we could be doing. Um, then there's connection, which is a layer deeper, because connection means that we're sharing what's inside of us and bringing it outside. We're not merely just sharing random information. I am bringing something from inside of me. Like, I feel pain. I'm hurting in this way, or I'm struggling with this, or I my aim is to do that. You know what I mean? It's more real. Conversation means to bring the inside outside. That's the literal meaning of it. And I feel like solitude has a certain inertia to it. Because once you start liking to spend time alone, it becomes a little harder to spend time together with people. It becomes a little easier to go, I'll do this alone. I'll watch this movie alone. And I think that's very good to do sometimes, but sometimes it's also good to invite other people along to enjoy it with you, especially if they're people that you trust and you can confide in and find some kind of common ground with, because then we know we're not alone. It's not just a feeling we're not alone. It's a knowing that we're not alone. And I feel like it's good to share experiences with each other. And my friend Eli at work, he was saying, I was telling him about this idea, and Eli with a three lie. But I was telling him this idea, and he was like, "It's kind of like a spider." I was like, "Oh yeah," because when you come out of it, you're kind of vulnerable. You've just shed a skin. In solitude, solitude is a it can be a transformative time. You can transform in solitude. You can create great things, but at some point, I mean, maybe not. I don't know. But for me, I was impelled or compelled or whatever. I just felt the urge to bring it outside of me. And during that time, I found that I had to be very careful of who I shared it with initially, because my skin was fragile, just like the spider. And the spider must shed its skin and then lay still for a while. And then for a while afterwards, its skin is soft and it's vulnerable to and malleable and is vulnerable to being eaten and destroyed. And just like you, when you come out anew, you are like reborn in some way. You were coming out of yourself. You were coming out of your shell, like people say. And it reminds me of when my son was born. See, my son, he was when he was born, I was nervous. I was very nervous, and it was a wild process to watch, seeing a child be born. But that also that line that I drew between that time and my time was very deep, because I was like him. I was in a place of darkness. He was being nurtured in the darkness, in the waters of the womb, and he came out amidst the pain, the blood, the screaming, and then he comes out into a foreign world. It's cold to him, and the bright lights in his eyes, and he had to adjust, and he screams to clean his lungs. And that's kind of like me. When I came out of it, I was just letting go, just readjusting to the world that I had left a little while ago. And everything felt a little new. It seemed new. The perspectives were new. And I just had to be very mindful of who I was around during that time, because it's a fragile time. It's a malleable time. It's like a baby. You don't let everyone hold your baby, because somebody could hurt your baby, and some people want to hurt your baby. And for whatever reason, I'm not trying to understand it, but some people do, and some people might do it on accident. And it's not like it's always intentional, but some people might. So if you bring your baby into the world, just be careful what you're doing and how you're sharing it with people. And it's like us. So solitude ultimately turns into personal freedom, a freedom to be who you are, where you are, to do what you want to do, where you are. And that's liberating to me, because I was able to, like I said, experiment on myself and test things out on myself and play around and become comfortable in front of a camera, in front of a microphone, comfortable with myself. And I think it's a whole process to be unraveled. And initially, it's very hard. It's not the easiest thing in the world. There's fear involved. There's doubt involved. And as I write and as I do these things, I kind of have this doubt and this fear in the back of my mind. But I have this hope and I have this faith and I have this love that kind of overrides that second feeling that I have, because that's a whole part of this. Is we have these internal battles, and these battles are shared across the world. We're not the only ones. If you're lonely, you're not the only one. You're not alone. I'm not alone. Even if I am alone physically, I know I'm not alone in the way that I think, in the way that I believe, in the way that I move. And I feel like that is a soothing feeling. And people might say it's cope, and it might be. But I think there's worse ways to cope than saying that I have hope, and I have faith, and I have love. And to all of you, I feel like if you're in this season of your life, get out there, try something new, get in there, try something new. You don't have to get out there. You could just be where you are. Do your dances. If you want to dance, you can dance. No one's watching you. Find some time to be you with you, so you can do that with others and inspire them hopefully to do the same, because that's how the world will grow. That's how we will improve, and that's how we get better, is by sharing what's true, what's real. I seek what is deep. I seek what is real. I seek a connection, and I seek authenticity, and I aim for that. I strive for that, and I don't always hit it, but I really do aim for it, because that's a part of life. It's a constant journey, and I am journeying just as you're journeying. I am trying just as you're trying. I am a human. This is not AI. This is not. I mean, AI probably would have made a better looking person, with like chiseled anime features. But I'm not that. I'm a human being, and so are you. We have feelings, and it's okay. It's okay to cry. It's okay to experience and really feel what is going on, and in some way that should be, or it could be. I shouldn't say should, but it could be a way to make it make sense to you as you go through it. And if you're going through it, just keep going. And like I said, if you feel compelled to reach out, please. I'll do my best to do my best. I'll try to be a friend to the lonely. I'll try to be a friend to whoever. I'm working to be a better person in any way I can, and it requires a lot of time and attention, because this our self is like a garden. We plant our seeds and we give ourselves time and attention. We do it with intention, and eventually something beautiful blooms out of it. So I hope this was helpful. I feel like uh, I feel like it felt good to say that, because I don't think I ever shared that story on here. And yeah, just keep track of yourself. Um, if you want some tips on what to do, I think journaling is a great place to start. To write down those feelings that are in your mind and on your heart, those things that maybe you ruminate on. That has really helped me through. All these stories will come from my journals, because I kept very I wouldn't say very detailed track, but I kept detailed track of my dreams and my experiences. Make sure you're staying hydrated. I know it's sounds crazy, but being dehydrated can make you feel a lot different. Your nutrition, your what you eat, what you drink, who you're around, how you feel. If you want to be a positive person, maybe taking a break from the negativity like social media could be helpful, because I feel like that exasperates this whole idea too. And there's a lot of practices we could get into, but mostly pursue your interest and take care of yourself, and only you know what that means. So next time, well, until next time, make sure you refine.